Good afternoon and welcome to Thinking Tuesday. Thank you for joining me here live, or if you listen to the replay on my YouTube channel, Thinking Tuesday Cheryl Burton. So by now you know that our motto is your mind is a garden and your thoughts are the seeds. And you can grow flowers or you can grow weeds, right? Some of you probably recited from memory by now. Some of you have told me that you have, so you know, you know the motto. So I want to spend some time. I want to spend some time talking about that motto today because you know that sometimes we get so used to repeating something that we really miss the meaning. We miss the real meaning of that thing. So I want to pause for a while today and talk about that motto. Um, why I adopted that motto and what it means to me. I would like you to do the same as well as you think about that motto. Your mind is a garden, and your thoughts are the seeds, and you can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. So, how does that apply to you? How does this apply to you? Better said, how are you applying this to your life? How are you applying this motto to your life? If we drive, or when we drive along the highway, for instance, or when we walk in some of our neighborhoods, we see vegetation growing along the highways, along the sidewalks, right? And some are planted. We can see that they're deliberately planted, and some are not. You know, the wind just takes the seeds, pollination, creates some of them where they're planted, right? So they're not deliberately planted by the gardener, so to speak. So I want you to intentionally look at that scenario if you're able to. Find a scenario such as the one that I just described. If you're able to while you're listening to this. And if you can't, if you're not in that space, try to recall a scenery that you might have seen before that has trees and grass and maybe flowers growing together, right? We can see from some of those that they are intentionally planted because they form a specific design, right? We know when something is created to look a certain way, when it's intentionally designed to look a certain way. There might be some species of trees that have been planted in a beautiful landscape, for instance, and some grass growing in between them, and they're beautifully manicured. They form a design that makes sense, that is pleasing to the eye, correct? And then there might be another area where the grass is growing tall and running wild, not contained. There might even be some wild flowers growing in between that look pretty, but we know that they're still weeds that were not intentionally planted there. So weeds can look pretty also, but we're not talking about those weeds right now. We're not talking about them as flowers, we're talking about them as weeds. So if you can conjure up that scenario, that scenery in your mind, okay, I'm going somewhere with this. So I have created a visual for you of intentional planting and landscaping in an area and in comparison, one that is just grown wild. So one that's deliberately designed to look a certain way, and the other one just things happen to float into the earth and they grow and they're just growing wild. This could even be a garden in your neighborhood or one that you have planted. Okay? The point is that this is a metaphor for how our thoughts are created and are sustained. Some of our thoughts are really created, designed specifically, and some of them just randomly get into our mind and we don't know how they got there, but they're there and they affect us, they impact us. Some of the thoughts are specific. We choose what we're going to think, how these thoughts are going to allow us to show up in the world, in our relationships, okay? How they're going to allow us to feel, because we know that our feelings are based in our thoughts. How we feel is based on how we think. We can choose our thoughts to determine when we want to think them. If something is bothering us and it's taking up too much of our time, we can choose to put that aside for a while and come back to it, or not at all. We know when to shut them down. We can shut them down also if they're not really giving us the results that we'd like. So we're capable of being fully in control of our thoughts. Then if we look at the second scenario, with the untamed grass growing wild on the highway, along the sidewalks, or even in your lawn, probably some wildflowers springing up in between those untamed grass in your lawn. It looks kind of chaotic, right? It looks chaotic, no specific design to it. They can look pretty, but they're not intentionally planted, but it's occupying a lot of space without any boundaries or any control. Anything can grow there. Anything the wind blows in can grow there, right? And this is how our mind can look as well when we do not pay attention to what thoughts we let in. If we're not attentive to our thoughts, if we allow them to go unchecked, then any thoughts are free to enter, even those ones that are counterproductive. So we should always be the gatekeepers of what we allow to enter our thoughts, our minds, the thoughts that we allow to enter. This is usually at the root of us experiencing that disconnect between what we have and what we want. We have certain things, or we are in a certain place, and we want to be in another place. We want to have more than we have now. And there's a disconnect between what we have and what we want. And it's because often we allow our thoughts to take us to places that are unproductive. Places that tell us that we can't, that we're incapable, that we're not worthy. We don't have the right circumstances, whatever it is. So we continue to repeat thoughts of past experiences sometimes, possibly failures we have experienced, trauma that we have endured, perhaps, unsupported statements that have been fed to us as children, perhaps, or even as adults, maybe at work. Perhaps by some well-meaning folks who thought they were being helpful. Who knows? Those days that I referred to in my previous message, those are the ones that I'm talking about. And if nothing else, I really would like you to fully appreciate how much you're in control of your thoughts, rather than having your thoughts control you. Your thoughts are your creation. You can create the ones you choose that would be helpful to you. For instance, you can begin to speak affirmations in your life, to speak positivity into your life. You can also begin to question those that have not been helpful in allowing you to move forward towards your goals and your dreams. Where did they come from? How credible is the source that generated them? Even if they made sense then, if they don't make sense now and they're counterproductive, you have the ability to change them. Thoughts can be discarded at any time that you choose to. We don't have to hold on to them just because we've had them for a while. Sometimes that's why they need to be changed, because we've had them so long and they're not really serving us in the way that they should. Thoughts can be discarded at any time you choose. So check the stories that you've been telling yourself also, and replace them with new ones, because oftentimes we just keep playing the same tapes over and over, and it's keeping us stuck. Because nothing within itself has meaning unless we give it meaning. So if we keep repeating the same stories, the same thoughts, giving them meaning, then that's why we remain stuck. That's why oftentimes we don't get to move out of the situation that we're in. We don't move from where we are to where we'd like to be. So check the stories that you've been telling yourself. What old stories are keeping you stuck? What stories that made sense to you before that don't make sense to you now, and that never made sense to you, but you continued just because someone told you that that's what it was? So it's time to reboot your mind. Just like we reboot our cell phones when they're not functioning at their best, We have the ability to reboot our brains so that we rid ourselves of negative and counterproductive thoughts and stories that cause the disconnect between what we want and what we have. The disconnect also between who we are and who we would like to become. So, the good news that I want to leave you with, and I've said it before, so it's not really new, all of this is within your control. Isn't that good news? To know that you don't have to dwell on thoughts that are counterproductive. You don't have to keep repeating and reliving stories that are counterproductive to your growth. I can help. I can help as a coach. This is the kinds of things that I do. These are the kinds of things that I do. Helping people to move from where they are to where they would like to be. So reach out to me through my website, drcherylburton.com, for a complimentary confidential consultation so that we can begin that conversation, and also share this with someone who you feel could benefit from it, right? As you're at my website visiting, please review the services and programs that I offer, and feel free to check in with me if any of them interest you. Also share this with someone who could benefit from it, and you can review this as well as my previous messages on my YouTube channel, Thinking Tuesday, Cheryl Burton. So I hope this has added value to you. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. We're a little bit behind 12 today, but I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at noon for another message on Thinking Tuesday. Take care and guard your mind. It's a garden, and you are the gardener. Take care. Bye for now.